Hey Thomas, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Good. Long time no see.
I know my tan's already fading from Mexico, so we're due for another trip.
For everyone joining us, we are this homepage it's not a picture of an airport lounge. That's a picture of our team at a retreat this past week. We all got together just to see what else we can do to keep improving Jagoot and had a lot of fun at a villa outside of Tulum. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that
So
was
I see we've
fantastic.
got a few people joining us. Hi, Johnny. Hi, Bobby. Stanamira is joining us from Louisiana. Always good to have Stanamira. She's one of our most. I don't know. Her and you, Tom, might be neck and neck. Hello, Sue. So for just another half minute. Today's topic is about airport lounges, and Thomas is one of our most veteran travelers, probably been in the most airport lounges of all of us. So he's going to share all sorts of tips and tricks about how you all can get in them and some of the better ones that he's been to, and we'll talk all about that. So say a few more hellos while we're waiting until top of the hour or bottom of the hour. And we can start it after that. So, welcome
Beautiful.
to Village. This is where we show up every week with a free live stream with tips and tricks on how to travel the world for free or for 70 to 90% off. And today is a fun topic. This is actually about our company's namesake. So, we have Jagoot, which stands for Just Get Out of Town. We have Jagoot Village, which is what you're watching right now. This is our free group where you can learn all about the various tips and tricks that have to do with the Jagoot way of travel. And then there's Jagoot Lounge. Jagoot Lounge is our high-end coaching program. And ironically, it's named after airport lounges. You know, just like I remember, I don't know about you, Tom, but I never went to airport lounges as a kid. Didn't even do it until the past 6 or 8 years. And there was always this allure of like, what's behind those fancy doors? You know, what kind of a VIP do you need to be to get behind those doors? And ironically, that's how we came up with the name of Jagoot Village, because it takes a village to learn how to travel the Jagoot way. And then Jagoot Lounge, that's where you get a lot more personal support and help to travel the Jagoot way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It was always sort of you'd go through airports and you kind of see a lounge and it was frosted glass doors or it was up a staircase somewhere and you're like, what happens back there? Who the Kennedys back there? Or you never really knew, but it was once you kind of get into it, it changes your whole attitude about even things like layovers, like 4 hours layover now, that's nothing because you're sitting in a lounge versus if you're, crammed on one of those little terminal seats without a charger, 4 hours can go by pretty slowly. But some of these lounges, 4 hours isn't enough time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a total game changer for all sorts of parts of travel, but especially those airport lounges or for those layovers. You know, another thing that I like about them is my wife and I have different philosophies on how early you get to the airport. But at least, you know, now we've got an airport with two lounges we can choose from. And plus, you know, when there's a first class lounge, if we happen to be flying first class, we've got that too. So that solves a lot of arguments of like, how early do you get there? Because we can go and settle in at the lounge, get a drink. Some lounges have massages and manis and petties and all that. So solves all sorts of problems with traveling.
Yeah. I've been seeing different like reels on Instagram and on Facebook saying that the how early you arrive at the airport, I guess there's a big gender divide on men tend to want to get there 3, 4 hours early. I don't know how true that is, but I've been seeing that a lot where that's a tension point in a lot of marriages is when do you show up at the airport? So the lounge helps you
Yeah,
find a common middle ground.
absolutely. So yeah, let's get started. What have you got for us this week, Tom?
All right, let's dive in. Yeah, so lounge access, and this is actually a really fun topic because it's pretty light. It's something everyone can do. Sometimes with my topics, they get very nerdy and kind of crazy very quick. So I'm really happy to be able to do this one because it's more fun. We'll kind of talk about some really cool experiences, and you don't have to do crazy math or memorize different aircraft types to enjoy this. So essentially, there's a wide variety of lounges and a lot of different types of lounges. Essentially, they're trying to give you a quieter, more boutique, more luxurious experience in the airport. There's some that have spas, movie theaters, cigar lounges. There's some where it's just a more comfortable chair and maybe a buffet. Maybe it's just like trail mix, not even a real buffet. So there's a lot of variety in them, but they're all kind of to get you out of the terminal where all the craziness is and the people and everything. There's a bunch of different ways you can get access to lounges, and that's kind of what we're going to go through here. So one that we talk about a lot is credit cards. So various credit cards will have various memberships. Sometimes credit cards are specific to an airline, like American Airlines. Their top tier card
Tell me
comes with American
a little bit.
Admirals Club access. Some of them will go into like Amex Platinum, come with 5 different lounge programs you can go to. So there's a lot there. There's also membership programs you can join just on your own, Priority Pass, Admirals Club, some of the airline programs you can just buy your way in, become a member. There's also airline status if you fly enough. Now, status can kind of be a shiny object, so it's not for everybody, but if you fly enough with one alliance, you can get airline status, which could get you lounge access. And then the other thing is flying premium cabins, so business, first class on international routes. So those are kind of the big ways that you can get access to lounges. So I'll start with credit cards because these are the easiest ones. You just get a credit card, you get lounge access. So Amex Platinum is probably the most famous, most talked about one. You get 5 different lounge programs with that. You get Amex's own lounge program, the Centurion, and we have some pictures of those as we go on. You also get Priority Pass, Plaza lounges. You get access to certain airline like Delta and Lufthansa lounges. So Amex really just opens up several different lounge programs to the point where pretty much any airport you go to, if they have lounges, you'll have access to at least one lounge through Amex. Comes with a hefty annual fee, as I'm sure everyone knows, but you do get pretty good access. Chase Sapphire Reserve also gets what's called Priority Pass, which is a huge network of lounges and different experiences. Besides just lounges, it also goes with minute suites, which if you haven't seen one of those, it's basically a mini apartment you can rent for an hour. I think there's a 2-hour max limit, but it has a shower, a bed, place to work. So that's really cool, especially if you're on an overnight layover or something. You can get a quick nap, take a shower. That's pretty cool experience. Capital One. Now we put not recommended here. Typically, Amex and Chase, you're going to get a lot more value, and that's for a different live stream. But we did want to put that Capital One, although not one of our top tier recommended ones, it does come with lounge access, and they're actually building out more and more Capital One lounges. I have a couple pictures and later on to show what the Capital One lounge in Dallas looks like. And then airline branded credit cards, also not recommended, but we cover that in different areas why we don't recommend that. But it's better to be a free agent. Chase and Amex probably have a lot more value, but various airlines.
Let's just maybe explain that for some of our newer viewers. Like there are all sorts of travel blogs out there that recommend getting every credit card under the sun, and those might talk about some of these other cards as well. But at Jagoot, we believe there's no one credit card that can do it all. But if you get the right combination of just a couple, like 2 or 3 credit cards, you can get like access to 80% of the benefits and the airlines and the hotels and the good deals out there. And in our opinion, that is a combo of 1 Amex card and 1 Chase card. Just those 2, and then maybe a 3rd or 4th to like round out your profile. That's all you need. And Capital One, sure, it works, but it's a distant third to Chase plus Amex. Anything to add on that, Tom?
No, yeah, I mean, we could do a whole different
Yeah,
session
yeah,
on
we
that, but yeah, no, absolutely right. You know, the Amex and Chase points, they're infinitely more flexible, which means they're more valuable. I can't tell you how many times in the lounge or the vault we'll talk to people who have a ton of Delta Sky miles and they want to travel, and it's like, well, you're very limited in what you can do with those Sky miles versus Amex and Chase. They open up a lot of different doors for you to get to different airlines, different partners, different alliances. So they're truly the top tier ones. I mean, like I said, there's nothing wrong with Capital One, but the top tier ones are definitely the ones we recommend. And doing it this way, the JGoot way, you don't have to sit there and open 8 new credit cards a year, which is a pet peeve of mine I see in the industry where they just want you to open a million credit cards.
yeah. I mean, that's how they're free. They get paid commissions by recommending lots of different credit cards. Everyone's got their own business models. We just prefer not to juggle lots of cards. I throw this up here, Tom. Talia passed through Chase Sapphire Reserve, and it didn't help at all on her last trip. That's also like an example of why we recommend having families of cards. And again, Amex and Chase gives you that widest diversity of lounges as well as point programs. You know, you get access to all sorts of different lounges by having those different cards. And it never works every time, but you want to have access to as many lounges as possible. So that's also why we kind of recommend a two card or two families of cards versus just one that you're absolutely loyal to.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's dive in here. So another way we talked about is premium airfare. So we talked about tickets. So we talked about business and first. We put this in quotes. I think Shannon at JGoot gave me this quote. You have to be international enough. So, for example, as some people found out with Mexico, a lot of U.S. carriers don't consider, even though Mexico obviously is international, they don't consider it international in terms of the lounge access you get. So, some people found out that having business or first class on the way to Mexico didn't give you airline lounge access. You can still get into Priority Pass, Centurion, any of the credit card ones, because that as long as you have a boarding pass, you're good to go in those lounges. For airline lounges, there are some restrictions. So one of them is you have to be traveling business and first on an international um, flight. But if you're flying Boston to Frankfurt, LA to Tokyo, business class or first class, you're going to get lounge access. And often there's going to be tiers of lounges. So you'll get a first class lounge, which is unbelievable luxury, and then a business class lounge, which is usually still very, very, very nice. The other thing there is status within an alliance, no matter what class of ticket you have. So if you have, even if you're flying economy, if you're flying international and you have status with that alliance, you'll be able to access the lounges. So, for example, if you have Air France Gold status, that gives you SkyTeam Elite. So then, if you're flying Delta or if you're flying Korean Air, you can access their lounges because you have that alliance status, which carries over through all the different airlines that are part of that alliance. So that's a way to get lounge access even when you're flying economy. Again, I think the credit cards are just easier and more plentiful usually. Um,
It's an
so
easier way to earn points too. I was in on a flight. We were both in first class. I got mine with points. The other guy I was with uh, was all excited. He's had status for 4 years, and this was the first time he got upgraded to a lie flat business class seat. And I was talking about that. He said, "Oh, I've got tons of miles, but it was through like hundreds of days of traveling, and we always call that earning miles the hard way. It's so much easier to just earn miles, earn status, earn points through the right credit cards."
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I thought here we would just dive into some of our favorite lounges and maybe intersperse some questions in here. But we polled a bunch of us in JGoot and then Joel and I's personal experience and figured out which ones. So this one probably has inside, it's not the nicest lounge, but for cool factor in the Dominican Republic, you get an outdoor swimming pool as part of the lounge experience. And then they obviously have showers inside so you don't, show up on the plane wet and smelling like chlorine. but what's cooler than being able to go for a swim, watch all these airplanes take off while you're at a lounge? So that's probably one of the coolest lounge features, I think. Centurion. So we talked about Amex having several lounge programs. Centurion is actually Amex's own lounge program. So they've been building this out. They're very, very nice. This is the one in Atlanta, which is fairly new. Each Centurion lounge looks different. They take local elements and try to fuse it into it. So you can see there's all trees in this one. It's half outdoors because it's nice there most of the year, unlike the Northeast. But you can see it's very, very elegant looking, very classy, and everything's included. So there's bar, there's food, there's usually children's areas with a closing door so they don't disturb people trying to work. So they're very, very nice lounges. For these, again, you just need Amex Platinum, and you can, or the Centurion card if you're in that tier, but most of us are not. But you just need the card and a boarding pass anywhere to be able to access these. So this is just something you get as being a perk of being a card holder. Let's see, this is one of my favorites, Hong Kong Cathay Pacific lounges. So it's actually underneath the airport and it almost feels like a speakeasy. The one on the right is Rosewood Hotels, which is also a Hong Kong based company. They opened their signature bar there. So you can go in and get Rosewood signature cocktails, and it looks like the inside of a Rosewood hotel. On the left here, I'm also a huge tea nerd. So they actually have a really, really nice tea bar where you can get fruits, snacks, and then they have a tea sommelier there who will blend tea blends for you, or you can just order, straight loose leaf tea, anything like that. They also have another section it looks like a street food vendor, and you can get different noodle dishes. They have all sorts of stuff there. It's one of my favorite lounges, and I like that you kind of go underneath the airport on an escalator. Very cool, very intimate lounge. Let's see. And then here's Istanbul. So this is Turkish Air. They have a very, very cool design. You can see it's kind of wavy and everything. It's a lot more self-service. You can kind of see in the back there some kind of like vending machines with snacks and sandwiches. It's all included. They do also have hot food you can order. And you can see these kind of really comfortable chairs where you can either work, you can eat, you can just relax. Let's see. And if you want, we can pull up some questions too as we go through these. Or
yeah, I've been marking a few that we can pull up at the end. Let me see if there are any worth chiming in now. I think we can save most of these for the end.
That works.
Yeah,
this one's
we'll
cool.
save them for the end.
This one, Lufthansa, so their first class lounge. So there's an airplane viewing section, which are these reclining chairs, but there's also a cigar lounge, which you can't really see in the picture, but there's a selection of cognacs, whiskeys, brandies, and cigars, and you just go in there, the door closes, and they have some sort of a filter system. I don't know if your seatmate's going to like you very much on the next flight if you re-click cigars, but they do have a cigar lounge, and it's usually pretty popular there. JAL, Japan Airlines, this is one of my favorites. You can see very nice omakase style sushi bar. This would be good food if you got it in a restaurant, but you're getting it for free in an airport, so that's even better. I also put a picture here. They have a robot that pours beer for you. So you just press what type of beer you want, and this arm comes out with a glass and it measures it and tilts the glass, and get a kick out of that. It's another Centurion one in Charlotte. Charlotte's obviously known for American Airlines. That's one of their big hubs. I think they have 4 American Airlines lounges that are decent, but Amex came in strong with their Centurion lounge. You can see completely different than the Atlanta one. Very modern, very sleek. They have the same thing, full bar, kind of regional food. Very, very nice. And Charlotte's one of those airports that gets crazy. So it's nice to get into a lounge kind of far away from the madness.
Remind me to talk about the Charlotte lounge after you're done with these.
since there's a story there. This one's very popular. So in Paris, Air France, they have their business class lounge and La Premiere, which is the first class. La Premiere is very private, and the food there is like a steakhouse. You order and you get a white gloved waiter bringing over plated dishes. The business class lounge, though, you get free facial and spa treatments at I forget if it's Caudalie or Clarins. It's one of the big French skincare brands, and you get free spa treatments while you're waiting. So you're not just eating and sort of relaxing. You can actively get spa and beauty treatments. Let's see. This is probably one of the most epic ones. This is Al Safwa. This is Qatar Airways' lounge. You can see the huge water feature there. Now, this lounge has a movie theater in it. I think it's 18 seats. So this is definitely, like a lot of stuff in the Middle East, over the top. But there's many different sections. It feels like it's its own city. But they have private sleeping areas. They have working areas. They have these kind of open areas. It feels like you're in a luxury hotel lobby. They have food, dining, but then they have like private rooms for coffee. I think they have a private cigar room as well. So they definitely very, very luxurious and over the top.
I was so bummed. I was planning on checking out that lounge, laying over in Doha, and flight was delayed. Didn't have enough time. And when I saw that airport, I knew I missed out on a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. The Middle East, just everything's kind of over the top. So this is the Capital One that we mentioned. Don't get the card, uh, or don't get the card first. But this is their lounge. They're starting to build out a lounge network in the U.S. as well. This is in Dallas. You can see great views of the runway. You can see it's, I would say, a little more pulled back from Centurion. Centurion's probably a little more refined. This one's probably a little more casual, but still very, very nice to get into. And for those people that do have Capital One, this is a lounge you can access. Dallas, one of the busiest airports in the world, again, a big AA hub. But I know sometimes the Centurion Lounge there can have a line. So if you do have multiple cards, you have a Capital One, you can always get in here and kind of skip the line, which can come in handy. Same with the Admirals Club there, it can get very busy. This is another Middle Eastern one, Etihad. This is in Abu Dhabi. You can see the kind of stunning design they have here for the bar. You can see nice, again, looks like an upscale hotel, not waiting for a flight. One thing I didn't mention too is a lot of these lounges you can actually board flights from. So a lot of times you don't have to go out to the terminal and board with everyone else. From here, there's a special walkway that you can take to get onto the plane. And even in smaller airports like Boston, if we wait in like the Lufthansa lounge or the Swiss lounge, there's a back door that kind of goes down and you end up on the gate with everyone else. So you kind of have to bypass going through the regular terminal and waiting in line and everything. You get all checked in, you just get up from your seat and you walk in. So a lot of these lounges are like that too. See, Delta, we talked about Delta. So Minneapolis, St. Paul, this is one of their nicer sky clubs. We talked about Amex. If you're flying Delta, doesn't matter what class, what route, and you have an Amex Platinum, you're able to access the lounge. They're making some changes to sort of restrict some of the lounge access, how many times you can access in a year based on spend and all of that. But Delta Sky Clubs are very, very nice, despite Delta's miles not being worth a ton. The Sky Clubs are pretty nice. So if you're a big Delta flyer, you live in Atlanta, Minneapolis, something like that, Amex Platinum can help enhance that without having to buy a Sky Club membership. Emirates, again, Middle Eastern ones, they just constantly redefining luxury. You can see they kind of make it look like an airplane here. They have their signature walnut trim, and then they have this area, which is cool. It's a quiet zone, so you're not allowed to take phone calls, play music, or anything. and you can see they're almost like little beds you can sit on and kind of relax, and it's low light, and you can kind of zone out there for a little while in privacy, which is nice.
My favorite, and Tom, have you experienced Emirates out of which one is it? It's JFK. No, uh, Newark, right? That
Oh, for
you enter straight
Athens?
from the lounge.
Yes.
Yeah, that one, that was amazing. Like, you don't deal with the whole cattle call of getting in line. You enter on the upper deck. If you're flying first class or business class, you enter on the upper deck of their A380, and they have a lounge that's on the upper deck. So you don't even deal with the other 600 passengers that are flying in coach. It's an entire private entrance directly from the lounge, and they've got gate agents right there in the lounge. Super cool.
Yeah. I know flying Singapore out of JFK, they used to fly the A380, the double decker, and you would go to the Virgin Sky Club as their partner lounge because Singapore didn't have a lounge there. They still don't. But you would use the Virgin Lounge, which had pool tables, and it was pretty cool. And it was on the second floor, and there was a separate bridge to get over to the second
Nice.
floor of the A380, so you never had to walk through economy or see see how the other half lives. You just kind of end up in your own little bubble from the lounge to the second floor of the aircraft, and you wouldn't even know there's 400 people sitting below you in economy.
Right.
This one I really like. It's not the fanciest lounge. This is in Seattle, Alaska's headquarters, because Alaska is based in Seattle, not actually Alaska, um, which is confusing for a lot of people. But they have this huge fireplace thing because it's fairly cold there, and I just love that as a feature. They have a craft beer bar over here, which you can't really see in the picture, and then this giant fireplace, so you can just sit around the fireplace with craft beer.
Nice.
So not too bad. One other category I wanted to call out is the concept of arrivals lounges. So a lot of different airlines have these, and it's what it sounds like. It's the lounges we're talking about are before your flight. These lounges they specifically make for after your flight. So I'm only really going to call out one, the Virgin one, um, uh, but similar concept. A lot of times it's smaller than the departure lounges, but usually they have huge shower facilities, breakfast, lots of coffee. I know going to see my sister lives in the UK. Whenever we have to fly to London, if we take Virgin, we'll use what they call the Revivals Lounge. Um, and you get in, you get coffee, you get a breakfast, and then you can book one of these shower suites, and you can go in and just change, take a shower after the red eye flight, and those are so nice after a long flight. The other thing worth mentioning is this counts for lounge access will count for layovers too. So a lot of times if I'm going to Thailand, oh, the pancake printer. Yeah, Shannon's right. At the Alaska Lounge, they have a pancake printer where you push a button and it makes pancakes for you, which is pretty neat. Um, but yeah, the Virgin Lounge is a really nice. But the for the layovers, like if I'll fly Cathay Pacific, Boston, Hong Kong to Bangkok. When you get to Hong Kong with your 3 hour layover, you have access to the showers there. So after that 16-hour flight, you can kind of take a shower. A lot of times there's a gym facility or something if you want to, get moving, get blood flowing through your body again, and take a shower so that on the next leg of your flight, you're ready to go. You don't have to kind of get to the hotel and put yourself back together. So these revival or arrival lounges are a pretty neat concept, I think. And those were our favorite ones when we polled all us J Gooters. So I guess we can open it up now for questions.
Cool. Well, I know our team have been answering some questions behind the scenes, but I thought I'd star a few just to get you to answer. We'll just go through those from the beginning. So, Artist Relations says, I have a priority pass, but recently in Turkey's airport, I noticed the line was ridiculous. Is the priority pass worth having? I've got a couple thoughts on that, but what are your thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, a lot of the credit cards we mentioned, Amex Platinum, Chase Sapphire Reserve, various co-branded cards. They give everyone priority pass. So for a lot of people, it's free, which is definitely worth it because free is almost always worth it. Um, but the flip side of that is, yes, a lot of people do have access. So when you go to certain airports where maybe there's one priority pass lounge, like I'm thinking like Kolkata, when I went through there, there's one priority pass lounge. And so if you're on a flight where it's a lot of people that have priority pass, there could be a huge line out the door and a wait, and that can be a disappointment. I think if I had to pay for priority pass, I would maybe think twice about whether or not it was worth money, but if I'm getting it as part of the other lounge programs I get access to with Amex Platinum, to me, that's worth it. And sometimes it's the opposite, where the Centurion lounges, the Sky Clubs are all packed, and the Priority Pass lounge, which is maybe a little more simple, but that tends to have less of a crowd. So sometimes it works both ways. I don't know, Joel, what you think?
Yeah, and I was gonna. So with this response, and I thought I'd pull covers a lot of the lounges. So not all airports have lounge options. Not all airlines allow lounges. Like you might not be able to fly, go into a Delta lounge if you're if you're not flying first class. Or United, I don't know all the airlines, but I know for certain United, even if you're flying first class, if it's domestic, they don't let you in their lounge. But there are loopholes, and by having the Centurion Lounge, those have their own footprint, and you could be flying Spirit Airlines and use their lounge. Priority Pass, same thing. Like you can use Priority Pass for a lot of lounges, and there are apps that explain that. But that's the beauty of the Jagoot way of travel is we recommend the two cards that have the most coverage. Like that combination of one Chase card, one Amex card, you've got the most airlines to choose from, the best deals on hotels, and typically the most lounges to choose from compared to any other airline program or any other credit card. Like Chase plus Amex gives you tons of different great lounges. And there are apps that you can just look up, or you could just Google it. You could just Google what lounges are at DFW Airport, and they'll spit out a result for you. So it's pretty easy to figure that out. The key is to have the cards that allow you the most access.
Yeah. And actually, Amex in 2019, they bought Lounge Buddy, which used to be an app, and now it's built into the Amex app. So if you have the Amex app on your phone, if you have a platinum card, you can actually go to benefits and then lounge access, and it'll show you every lounge and it tells you what you need. So it'll say for the Delta Sky Clubs, it says you must be flying Delta, any class. There's two of them. One is on this terminal, one is on this terminal, and it tells you the hours. It tells you, oh, this one has showers, this one doesn't, this one has full bar, this one's only beer and wine. So that's kind of a cool thing. But yeah, and this a good segue into the next question here about what the best credit card is. I would say Amex Platinum by far gives you the most choices and options when it comes to lounges. And I think, like Joel said, like if you look at my wallet, I have my Amex Platinum, Amex Gold, Chase Sapphire, and my driver's license, and that's all I carry with me. Now I have a few other cards I don't use as much, but those are really my main drivers, and those get you that combination will get you access to just about everything you need.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, and it's great when you have that philosophy. And for those wondering, I saw someone else say that, $695 annual for the Amex. Yes, it's an expensive card, but we've done other demos that if you're a Jagoot Vault member, jagoot.com/vault, we have a training that actually coincidentally Thomas did on all of the different perks that Amex has. And there's a section in the book, I believe it's page 87 of the book, that everyone watching these videos should own, because the book is what we talk about. Page 87 helps you decide which card is right for you. Maybe it's the platinum, maybe it's the gold, maybe it's just the green card. But there's a little questionnaire that asks you about your spending habits, your travel habits, and it will score that for you and tell you what card might be best for you. But the big thing that people don't realize is, yes, it's $700, but you get over $1,000 worth of credits that can offset that. Not to mention free lounge access. And anyone who's tried to eat during a long layover knows that that could cost two people $100. So depending on how often you travel, those fees are usually offset pretty easily. The key is to just know the benefits and take advantage of them.
Yeah, often even without traveling, not to go down too far down the rabbit hole of credit cards, but even before you're traveling, a lot of times the Amex is almost even by the time you look at the food credits, the Uber credits, and Walmart Plus, streaming credits, like all the different things you get from that. A lot of times that practically offsets it anyway, so the rest is kind of gravy. And I saw a couple comments. I think Trang was asking about why I had the gold. So real quick, and Asif actually answered it right after, but the gold earns 4x on groceries and restaurants, which are probably my two biggest spend categories. So the gold card is probably my biggest earner in my arsenal. But that's for another video. But I saw a couple people ask that.
Yeah, and that, I mean, choosing the right card, if you don't want to live in a hamster wheel of churning 5 to 25 new credit cards a year, which is what some people, what some travel bloggers do and endorse doing. If you don't want to do that, that's the key, is just learn the benefits of the 2 or 3 cards that would be best for you. And you'd be amazed at how much you can get out of those cards. Like, there are cash back people that talk about getting 2% cash back, and that's great. You can get 10 to 50, if not more, 10 to 50% of what you spend on credit cards. You get that back in benefits, in free flights, in free hotels, just by knowing how to leverage the benefits that come with those cards. So it's very, very important. So important that inside Jagoot Lounge, our high-end coaching program, um, we have a coach dedicated to just helping you decide which card is most important for you. Um, because having the wrong card for your spending habits, for where you travel, for how you travel, is like bringing your best sword to a gunfight. So it's just very, very important. Does that mean you need to join Jagoot Lounge? No. Do you need to dig into the 201 and 301 section of the book to find what card is absolutely best for you? Yes. So if you'd like to figure out if the lounge would be best for you, if you spend more than $5,000 a year on travel, if you want to fly in business first, if you want to stay in nice hotels, feel free to set up a call. We've got a link there where you can go to set up a call, and we'll help you to figure that out. If the lounge would be helpful, or if there's a certain section of the book that you could dig into that would be more helpful, or whatever. Let's see. Justin talks about issues with Amex Lounge and lines and so on. What are your thoughts about that?
Yes, it's so funny. Right before COVID, there were some complaints. I was working out in Las Vegas a lot. So I was flying out there, and the Centurion Lounge there was getting crowded, and they were talking about expanding it, and they have since expanded it. And it was like with the travel boom post COVID, um, all of a sudden, like it would be like I flew in through Miami the other day, and there was, I think, a 45-minute wait to get in the Centurion Lounge, and you manage it on the app, so they kind of have a slick way to do it. But if you only have an hour and a half layover, half your time's waiting, so that can be frustrating. But that's one of the reasons the Amex Platinum has so many different programs. You don't have to, obviously Centurion's very nice, but you have other options. And the same with having like the Chase, so getting the priority pass, or if you had like a Capital One, you could get access through that. But that's one good thing about having, diversifying your lounge access. So if you don't have just one lounge, because that happens, you see that with Delta Sky Clubs a lot in Minneapolis and Atlanta. There's an hour and a half wait to get in because all the Delta flights are leaving around the same time. So being able to use a priority pass or a Plaza Premium or some other sort of lounge allows you to sort of get away from having to wait too long. But yeah, it's definitely something that's come up, and I know Amex. I sort of talked about it in the beginning, but they're making a few little tweaks to their program to try to address the overcrowding in the lounges, but also keep them accessible to cardholders.
Yeah, and again, that's an argument for just having multiple cards. Sometimes there will be lines, and then you can just go to a different lounge. Here's another one. And this is more of a credit card. This is not necessarily a lounge issue. You should never get a card just for lounge access. But this is a credit card question that some Silvana says the problem with the Chase that I got is that I saw that Delta wasn't a partner. I mostly fly Delta, so I guess I have to get Amex Platinum. I have Delta Amex. So let's just shift to point.
Yeah, so I think I mean Chase is a great card, so don't completely abandon Chase. Chase has a lot of sweet spots as well. But yeah, for Delta and being based in Boston, I was a big Delta flyer for a long time. We're a hub here. They kind of have the more premium product, I guess, or at least that's how they kind of market it. So a lot of business travelers prefer them. Um, but some of it's knowing how to use your points. I would much rather earn Amex points than Sky Miles, and you can use Amex points to book Delta. You could, in theory, transfer them to Delta, which isn't the best way to do it. And the book goes into a lot more detail on how to do this, and we talk about this. I'm one of the coaches in the lounge, so I know my specialty area is redemption multipliers and how to redeem your points better. So this is something we talk about a lot in the lounge, but um, in order to book those same Delta flights, you can book them through partners. So the Amex Platinum unlocks a lot of different options, but Chase does as well. So you can use those Chase points if you know which partners can book Delta. You can take those Chase points and use them to book those same Delta flights that you like. So there are ways to do it. But the Amex Platinum comes with the Delta Sky Club access. So if you are flying Delta a lot, and Sky Club access is important to you, the Amex Platinum can unlock those lounges no matter what your class of service is, which is a nice benefit.
Yeah, so it comes down to use, but for the most part, we're not big fans of individual airline or individual hotel cards. We believe in a phrase called "if you're branded, you're stranded. You're stuck with that airline." So there are plenty of ways to do that. You don't even need the Amex Platinum. You could have any Amex that earns membership rewards, and again, we cover that in the 301 section of the book. And you can fly on Delta. You can fly on Delta partners often for half as many points, if not less than that. It doesn't work all the time, but again, those are all little strategies where you can stretch your points 2, 3, 10 times farther by learning how to use them and not just putting your blinders on and being loyal to one airline.
I can tell you in the lounge just last week, someone was looking at flying Delta One to Japan, and it was 300,000 miles one way. In Delta One is their business class product. It's very nice. We were able to use the SkyTeam partner, and we booked that for I think it was 72,000 one way. So, and that was using I forget if they were using Chase or Amex, but either one would have worked for that partner. So, learning some of those tips and tricks gets you away from the need to earn Sky Miles, and my Amex points can more than supplement what I can get with Sky Miles, and that's what's cool with unlocking how to redeem points better. Is you don't have to get locked into some of these programs.
Yeah, let that sink in, folks. What was it? 350,000 points to fly on Delta One using Delta Sky Miles, or 72,000 points to get on the exact same plane using either Amex membership rewards or Chase Ultimate Rewards. Flexible points, stretch your points 5, 10, 20 times farther by just knowing how to use them. So very, very important. And it
And
just
not for a
reinforces that.
similar seat, for the same exact seat, not for like, oh, this is close or this is another. It's literally you're sitting on the same airplane, same Delta airplane, and everything. So,
yeah. We call those second tier transfer partners, backdoor transfer partners, or alliance, as the industry calls them, alliance transfer partners. And it's a game changer. You can stretch your points literally 3 to 10 times farther. Here's another one from John. Back to lounge questions. So how do you get your partner into the lounges using Amex Platinum? My card says spend $75K to add my wife.
yeah, or just give her the card and she'll take care of the spending. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so that was one of the restrictions Amex put in to sort of quell some of the crowding at lounges. It hasn't stopped it, and it's annoying. So there's a couple ways to do that. One is, yeah, if you spend over 75K a year, you can bring guests in. The other is if you make her an authorized user, which I don't remember off the top of my head. Is it 150 a year, 175, something like that? If you make her an
I think
authorized user,
25, but yeah.
yeah, and so she would get her own kind of platinum card, but it's tied to your account. Her any points she earns go to your membership rewards account, but then that makes her a platinum card holder, so she can access any of the lounges. I think that's what a lot of people do with spouses. Yeah, 195. Yeah, Mira said, and Mira knows.
And that I think that's 3 guests once you get that. So
Yeah,
either spend 75K, which I wouldn't advise. I wouldn't spend 75,000 on a platinum card just because I can earn a lot more points elsewhere. But whether you do it that way or get an authorized user, you get not just 1 extra, but you get 3 guest accesses, up to 3 for that 195.
yeah. And I saw Jennifer had something about a family with kids. So it's the same if the 2 adults have one has the card, one's an authorized user, then you'd be able to bring in the guests as well, which would be the children, because they're probably not going to have their own cards unless they're very fortunate, very fortunate children. But yeah, and the other thing is that a lot of the lounges, like Priority Pass, you can bring guests. So yeah, the Centurion has that restriction, but it's not every lounge. So if you are in a situation where there isn't a workaround for the Centurion, there's bound to be a Priority Pass or another type of lounge that you can both access. The other thing is depends on how crowded it is, but a lot of lounges will sell day access too. Um, I'm not sure what the price would be for a Centurion, but a lot of times like Admirals clubs or the United Club will sell it for, 50, $60 for a day. And it is for day. So if you have 2 stops in that day, you get lounge access at both. So often you can do something like that. Obviously, that's still spending money, but there's definitely ways to work around it.
My wife took her sister on a trip about a month ago, and they opted to not to because she has a platinum card, but she just, they just went and got a drink and a meal. And we realized after that, like after paying for it, because you think like, oh, I don't want to pay $50 for a guest, but you're not like, if you go to a restaurant, an airport restaurant with them, you got to pay for yourself and your guest. So you really only have to spend $25 a piece, and that's not hard to do at an airport. We went to an airport once with some friends and their kids, and the tab was like over $250. And it was just a Chili's. It's insane how quick that adds up. So yeah, sometimes just paying the $50, if you don't travel a ton, you don't need to bend over backwards. You don't need to pay for an authorized user. Just pay the $50 to get the guest in, because the both of you are eating and drinking for free and in a much more comfortable environment. So just remember, like, that might seem expensive, but you both get to eat for free. You both get free drinks. So that still helps, even though there's an additional fee.
Yeah, I can tell you, I was in Pittsburgh recently, and I was flying JetBlue. There were no lounges in that area, so we just went to some random bar, and we had each had a burger and a beer and a glass of water, and it was like $95, and it was not like a super gourmet burger, and you had to sit in your Steelers fans the whole time, so it was a total ripoff.
Yeah. Yep. But hey, at least when you save 70 to 90% on flight and hotel, everything else becomes who cares money. So you can just deal with it.
Exactly.
Let's see. We've got one more lounge question, and then I'd like to wrap things up with a general credit card statement that we can close things up with. But Monica asks, how can she tell ahead of time? You said this earlier, but let's just reinforce how people can learn to take advantage of the lounges that they have access to.
Yeah, so if you have it through Amex Platinum, the easiest way is Amex owns an app called Lounge Buddy, which is built into your Amex app. So if you go into your Amex app on your phone, and you click on benefits, and then right at the top, there's a section called Lounge Access. You can click that, and it should use your location to say, hey, you're here. But you can also type in an airport. So if you're not there yet and you're flying to LA and you want to know, well, what lounges can I access? You put in LA and it'll say, hey, in Terminal 1, there's this. In Terminal 2, there's this. And you can click on them and you can see, like, do you have to show your Amex Platinum card to get in? Do you need to be flying a specific plane? Because sometimes, like, if it's a Lufthansa or Delta lounge, you have to fly that carrier or a partner. Um, Sometimes it's just, hey, you show your Platinum card, you walk in the door, and so you can do that, and you can just type in any airport in the Amex app, and you can see, which makes it very, very easy to tell where you can get in. You can see the hours, you can see what amenities. So if you want to decide between two lounges, you can see, well, this one has showers, this one doesn't, but it has hot food or something, and you can kind of decide that way. So that tool is super powerful. It used to be a standalone tool, and Amex bought them.
Nice. Well, then why don't we? I know a lot of questions got answered in the comments, so we'll leave those be. And then why don't we just close out with this? It's more of a statement. And Connie says, "I literally hate credit cards," and I'll say a couple things about that. The first is the first 20 pages of the book have nothing to do with credit cards. We call that our Rule 1 strategy, and it's you can just go where the deals are. You don't need credit cards. You don't need points. You don't need status. There are amazing deals out there every day. And just like this company name implies, if you just get out of town, you can spend 70 to 90% less on your flights, plan vacations around those, without any points or any status whatsoever. So if you hate credit cards because you're a cash-only Dave Ramsey type, if you can't get credit cards for credit problems, just remember that the first 20 pages of the book will help you just get out of town for a lot less without any points or status whatsoever. And then for everyone else who focuses on the 201 and the 301 section of the book, that's our credit card point hedging sections. We still believe in responsible credit. You should never run up balances. You should never charge anything that you can't pay off by the statement date. As soon as you start paying interest, it just chews up all the profitability of this fun hobby. So when you're paying interest and carrying balance on credit cards, that's far more costly than the value of the flights that you get. So you don't want to do that. So just remember, we'll close today out with use credit responsibly. This is a great hobby when you do it, when you learn how to earn more points and how to redeem them for a lot more. But remember, this is, you don't want to dig yourself into debt just to get some free flights. That never makes any sense. Buy stuff you normally buy, learn where to buy it so it gets more points, learn how to spend those points wisely, and more importantly, remember the 101 section so you can find deals so you're not always dependent on points for all of your trips. Anything else you want to add to that, Tom?
No, just that. Yeah, that's really what attracted me to JGoot way back when we were first growing into what we are today, but it was so many travel influencers and blogs. It's just keep getting these credit cards. And so unless you're opening 8 credit cards a year or spending 200K a year on credit cards, a lot of that's just not going to be possible. And I think JGoot, it's all about credit card minimalism. You don't need to open 18 credit cards, and also balancing that rule one, like understanding how to go where the deals are, because that opens you up to so many more possibilities. And you're a free agent. You get to travel more, you get to travel better, and you're not required to do jump through all these loopholes or do manufactured spend or start an Amazon store. It's really just an organic way of learning how to travel better. And I just love hearing from everybody too about all the traveling they're doing. I just love seeing the community we've built here. So
Yeah. Well, with that said, thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next week. You can always find us. We're here every week, except for a few exceptions a year when we're all traveling or on a retreat. But you can find us every week, every Monday. Mark your calendar for Mondays at 1:30 Pacific. Teams, plural, and find the latest topic and add it to your calendar.